we're going to do something that we've never done here before after we do these awards. We're going to actually have a 7-man shoot down in the open throw class. And now for your viewing enjoyment, 7 of the best archers in the world competing for first place at the Mathews Illinois Pro Am. If everybody's settled in, Eric Griggs is going up on the Coyote. Anybody else want to go up? Tim Gillingham going up on the Mountain Lion. So the Mountain Lion and Coyote are the upper 12 rings. So gentlemen, if you're ready, we'll start your 1 minute now. Okay, first up, Levi Morgan on the Javelina. And for Levi, we have an 8 for Levi Morgan, moving him to 442. For Tim Gillingham, calling the upper 12 on the Mountain Lion. For Tim. A 12 for Tim Gillingham, moving him to 444. We have a new leader in the clubhouse, Dan McCarthy. On the Deer, we have an 8 for Dan McCarthy, moving him to 440. Next up for Ty Atkins on the Black Bear. For Ty, we have a 14 for Ty Atkins, moving him to 444. And into a tie for first place. For Eric Griggs, who called the upper 12 on the Coyote. For Eric Griggs, we have a 10 for Eric Griggs, moving him to 440. Into a tie with Dan McCarthy. And for Chris Hacker. Looking at that 14 ring for Chris. He's got it. Jacob Harlow. Looking at E-Pace. And for Jacob. 10 for Jacob. Moving him to 440. We'll start your 1 minute now. Okay, we have to go real slow so I can keep track of who's where. I got Chris Hacker currently in the lead at 444, a 10 for Chris. That moves him to 450. Next up, for Eric Griggs. For Eric. We have a 12 for Eric, moving him to 452. Followed by Ty Atkins, looking for the high 12 in the Coyote. We have a solid 10 for Ty, moving him, keeping him at 454, and a tie with Chris Hacker. Next for Dan McCarthy on the Black Bear. Looks like Dan's looking for something special here. He's got an 8 though, that moves him to 448. For Tim Gillingham, looking for a high 12 of his own. He has that high 12 and moves him to 456 and into the lead. For Levi Morgan. For Levi Morgan, we have an 8 for Levi, moving him to 450. And for Jacob Marlowe, also looking for the high 12. And for Jacob, we have a 10 for Jacob. So now let's look at the board. We have Tim Gillingham, the lead at 456. Ty Atkins and Chris Hacker at 454. Eric Griggs at 452. Jacob Marlowe and Levi Morgan at 450. And Dan McCarthy at 448. Everyone is still within 10 points of our leader. We got a high 12 call on the Mountain Lion by Jacob Marlowe. Anybody else want to go up? All right, gentlemen, if you're ready, we'll start your 1 minute now. Chris Hacker. First up, Chris Hacker. A 10 for Chris Hacker. All right, next to Jacob Marlowe. To Jacob Marlowe on the mountain line with a high 12 call. We have a 12 for Jacob. Moving in to 462 for Levi Morgan. For Levi. We have a 14 for Levi Morgan. Let's get him healthy real quick for Tim Gillingham, the Black Bear. He's got a 14 of his own saying, I'm going away if I can. He's at 470 for Dan McCarthy. For Dan McCarthy on the Coyote. We have a 12 for Dan McCarthy, moving into 460. No one wants to run away from the crowd. They're all making their move, though. Now for Ty Atkins.
Is there an 8 arrows?
10. No, we're gonna keep shooting this until somebody drops. And Eric Griggs on the antelope. We have an 8 for Eric Griggs, moving him to 460. Yes, there will be a 7th and final, or 8th and final arrow for you guys. So after 7 arrows, anybody within 10 points of leader will have one more shot at it. All right, let's look at the board real quick. It's Tim Gillingham at 470. Ty Atkins and Chris Hacker at 464. And Levi Morgan at 464. And Dan McCarthy and Eric Griggs at 460. And Jacob Marlowe at 462. Everybody's still within 10 points of our leader. Eric Griggs wants the high 12 in the javelina. Tim Gillingham wants the high 12 in the deer. And Ty Atkins on the coyote, I'm sorry. So I got the javelina, the coyote, and the antelope for high 12s. Gentlemen, if you're ready, we'll start your 1 minute now. Okay, first up for Ty Atkins, we have an 8 for Ty, moving him to 472. Next for Danny McCarthy. For Dan McCarthy, we have a 14 for Dan McCarthy. For our leader, Tim Gillingham, looking for a high 12 on the Coyote. For Tim, we have a 10, moving him to 480. For Levi Morgan, looking for a big number of his own. He's got a 14, that is a big number. That moves him to 478. For Jacob Marlowe. For Jacob, we have a 12 of his, moving Jacob up to 474. For Chris Hacker. For Chris, we have a 10. And on the javelina with a high 12 call for Eric Griggs. For Eric, we have an 8 for Eric. So, gentlemen, if you're ready, we'll start your 1 minute now. Okay, first up for Ty Atkins. For Ty Atkins, currently at 472. For Ty, we have an 8, moving him to 480. Next for Eric Griggs. For Eric, we have a 14 for Eric Griggs. Next up for Chris Hacker. For Chris, we have a 12 for Chris Hacker. That moves him to 480. 486? Oh, high caught now. For Jacob Marlowe. A 14 for Jacob Marlowe. He's not backing off either. Let's move on to Levi Morgan. Currently 2 points behind our leader, Tim Gillingham. Looking for the high 12. And the survey says a 10 for Levi, moving him to 488. Next for Tim Gillingham, currently enjoying a 2-point lead. He also went for the high 12. 12 for Tim Gillingham, moving into 492. And for Dan McCarthy on the antelope. For Dan, we have a 12 for Dan McCarthy at 486. All right, gentlemen, we'll start your 1 minute now. Okay, first up for Tim Gillingham, looking for a high 12 in the antelope. He has a 10, that moves him to 502. Next for Levi Morgan. For Levi Morgan, we have a 14 for Levi Morgan, moving him to 502. Next for Jacob Marlowe. Yes, for Jacob Marlowe on the Coyote. We have a 10 for Jacob. That moves Jacob to 498. For Chris Hacker on the Black Bear. Chris pulls in with a score of a 14 for Chris Hacker, moving him to 500. Eric Griggs, currently at 482. For Eric, looking for a 14, a 5. He's just off, moving him to 487 for Eric Griggs. Ty Atkins, a 10 for Ty Atkins, moving into the 490, and for Dan McCarthy on the Javelina. We have a 10 for Dan McCarthy, moving him to 496. Okay, here we go. We now have Levi Morgan and Tim Gillingham tied at 502. Chris Hacker is at 500. Jacob Marlowe's at 498, Dan McCarthy at 496, Ty Atkins at 490, Eric Griggs at 487. This is the 7th arrow. Anybody with 10 points or later after this arrow will go to an 8th and final arrow. And if darkness doesn't catch us, we might keep going after that. Just depends what kind of mood we get into. Right? All right. Anybody want to go up? Anyone on number 12? All right, gentlemen, we'll start your 1 minute now. Okay, first up for Tim Gillingham on the Javelina. For Tim, they're looking for it. He's our current leader, tied with Levi Morgan at 502. We have a 10 for Tim, moving him to 512. Next for Dan McCarthy, currently at 496, only 6 points behind. A 12 for Dan McCarthy, that moves him to 508. For Ty Atkins. For Ty, we have an 8 for Ty, moving him to 498. For Eric Griggs, currently at 487. A 14 for Eric Griggs, moving him to 501. For Chris Hacker, currently at 500, only 2 points behind on the Coyote. And he's looking at it. And the survey shows a 12 for Chris Hacker on a Coyote. That moves him to 512 and into a tie for first place. And for Jacob Marlowe, currently at 498. A 10 for Jacob moves him to 508. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's look what happens with Levi Morgan. And Levi Morgan is looking for a 12, moving him to 514. That may have taken a couple more people out of contention for the final arrow. So right now, Levi Morgan leads at 514. Tim Gillingham at 512.
You've got a tough choice. Do you shoot Mr. Big Daddy or shoot Mr. Freak Nasty? Do you shoot the mind-blowing, industry-leading Carbon Spider or shoot the heart-pounding, high-performance Aluminum Factor? So which one do you shoot? 2 choices, 2 right answers. Lucky you.
All right, so now we have
Right there, guys. Coyote.
our leader at 514, and everybody else is within 10 points is going to be shooting the final arrow. All right, Ken, what have we decided to do here?
Coyote.
The coyote from over there. All right, gentlemen, we're going to give you guys 1 minute to judge, and we're going to start out shooting with, let's see, Jacob Marlowe will be shooting first. All right, is my 1 minute up yet? Yes, it is. All right, Jacob, are you ready, my friend?
Yep.
All right, first arrow up, Jacob Marlowe, currently sitting at 508, 6 points behind our
Can I
leader.
shoot or not? I don't know.
Ready?
Yeah.
We'll start your
Can I
1
move
minute
that camera?
now.
All right, I'm gonna stand right in front of it then. Smoke it.
All right, let's see what we got for Jacob Marlowe. That's a 14 for Jacob Marlowe. 522 it is. Okay, next up, shooting next is Dan McCarthy, also at 508.
You guys don't
You're
have
good?
to follow that. Same
I think your
thing,
dad just sold himself over here. All right, Mr. McCarthy, let you glass at one time, settle in, and let you make your shot. All right, Dan, you ready?
Parker.
All right, we'll start your 1 minute now. Oh, I'm sorry, another 14 for Dan McCarthy.
You rascals. You kidders. You rascals, you.
Oh my God.
These rascals.
Next, Chris Hacker, currently at 512, only 2 points behind our leader. He needs a 10 to tie up with Jacob and Dan. He needs a 12 to move ahead by 2 points. So Chris, let me know when you're ready.
Good.
We'll start your 1 minute now. Okay, Chris is looking for an 8 for Chris Hacker, just underneath it, and puts him at 520. All right, next up, Tim Gillingham, currently at 512. Tim needs a 10 to move into a tie for first place. He needs a 12 to put a little more pressure on to Levi Morgan. He wants the upper 12 on the Coyote. Let me know when you're ready, Tim. All right, we'll start your 1 minute now. He's looking for an upper 12. A 10 for Tim Gillingham moves him to 522. And 24 bonus rings. Okay, let's set the stage now. I've got Jacob Marlowe at 522 and 20 bonus rings. Dan McCarthy at 522 and 22 bonus rings. Tim Gillingham at 522 and 24 bonus rings. If Levi Morgan can take a 10 here, he will move into the championship. If he takes an 8, we'll have a 4-way tie, which we'll continue to shoot for. All right? Does that math make sense to you, sir? All right, you ready to go? We'll start your 1 minute now. at 524 in second place, at 522 and 21 bonus points for Gilligan. In third place at 522 and 22 bonus points, Dan McCarthy. In fourth place is
Got to be the craziest shoot-off I've ever been to.
522 and 20 bonus points. We drew the weekend. Take the first shot, 522 and 20 bonus points. Ladies and gentlemen, we get going. Big round of applause for a great shoot down. We want to thank them for indulging us and entertaining you guys this weekend. I know it was a little bit harder to shoot that many arrows in a shoot down, but I'm glad they stuck around and did it for us. And thank you all for coming. We'll see everybody in Cullman, Alabama after we present some checks right here.
Talk to me, man. Walk me through that.
That was the roller coaster, dude. I start out with 2.8s like I have all year in the
You've
shootout.
done that all year.
I know, man. I have to get in a hole before I like smack myself around a little bit. But I was like, you know what? It's time to go for it.
Yeah.
Like Tim's 6 ahead of me after 2 targets. Everybody's hitting rings. I was like, all I could think about was the movie Major League, where they're like, you ain't got no marbles. I was like, I'm going for it. So I hit him when I needed to and held on somehow. Lord, that was too much stress.
It was a stressful day altogether.
First up,
Dude, it started. I ain't going to go there, but yes.
Well,
No more podcasts.
you've got a sweet ride home.
Yeah, I do.
All right,
Actually,
brother.
I'm going to hang cameras. So.
See you, buddy.
First up, we have a check for $12,000.